What happens when a desperate college student with nothing to lose meets the most powerful CEO in the city? Emma Sullivan thought she was just applying for a job. She had no idea she was walking into an obsession that would change both their lives forever. This is the story of how a single job interview turned a broke student's world upside down and introduced her to a billionaire who had been watching her long before she ever knew his name. Some contracts are about business. This one was about something far more dangerous. Emma Sullivan stared at the black screen of her laptop, watching her entire future crumble in real time. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and she sat in the dimly lit corner of the university library, surrounded by empty coffee cups and textbooks that cost more than her monthly food budget. Her ancient laptop, held together with duct tape and prayers, had just given up with a final, pathetic wheeze. At 22, Emma was everything a scholarship student should be. Business major with a 3.8 GPA, determined to succeed against all odds. But determination didn't pay rent, and academic excellence didn't put food on the table. Her full-ride scholarship covered tuition, nothing more. Everything else, rent, food, books, basic survival, fell squarely on her shoulders. And those shoulders were getting tired of carrying the weight. Emma's part-time job at Grind Coffee paid minimum wage for maximum humiliation. Every morning, she served overpriced lattes to sorority girls who spent more on their coffee than Emma made in an entire shift. They'd roll their eyes when she couldn't make their usual perfectly, as if she was supposed to memorize every spoiled student's specific caffeine addiction. But she needed that job, desperately. Her roommate, Maya, came from comfortable money, not billionaire wealth, but the kind of family security where parents paid for everything without question. Maya tried to help, bringing home leftovers from expensive restaurants and offering to cover utilities when Emma came up short. But there was only so much charity a person could accept before their pride began to wither. Maya would find Emma some nights, crying over accounting textbooks because she couldn't afford the latest edition. Emma would follow along with outdated formulas, hoping professors wouldn't notice, praying she could keep up with classmates who had every advantage money could buy. Then came the call from home that changed everything. "Emma, sweetheart, I hate to worry you during finals, but..." Her mother's voice carried the exhaustion of double shifts at the nursing home, the weight of medical bills that never seemed to shrink. Emma's father had suffered a heart attack the previous year. The bills were drowning her parents, though they'd never directly asked their daughter for money. But Emma could hear it in every phone call. The fear, the stress, the quiet desperation of choosing between medication and groceries. She was their success story. The first Sullivan to attend college. The one who was supposed to lift the family out of financial struggle. No pressure at all. So there Emma sat at 2 a.m., staring at her dead laptop, with exactly $47 in her checking account, and finals approaching fast. She needed $800 for a replacement laptop, $200 for utilities, and about $1,000 for basic dignity. That's when desperation made her brave. Or perhaps just desperate enough to take a leap that would change everything. Maya found Emma the next morning, hunched over her laptop at their tiny kitchen table, scrolling through job listings with the intensity of someone whose life depended on finding the right opportunity. Which, honestly, it did. You've been at this for hours," Maya said, pouring coffee into a mug that had seen better days. "Come on, let's grab breakfast." "Can't afford breakfast," Emma muttered, refreshing the job board for what felt like the 100th time. "Can't afford anything until I find something that pays more than slave wages." Maya peered over Emma's shoulder at the screen, taking in the list of corporate positions that seemed impossibly out of reach. "You're looking at Fortune 500 companies. Emma, be realistic. You don't have the kind of experience they want." "I have experience. I've been working since I was 16. Coffee shop experience isn't exactly what Goldman Sachs is looking for." The truth stung because it was accurate, but Emma kept scrolling anyway. Because what was the alternative? Give up? Go home and watch her parents sink deeper into debt while she served lattes to people who would never understand choosing between textbooks and groceries? That's when she saw it. The posting was deceptively simple for what it offered. Personal assistant to CEO, Kane Industries. No experience required. Starting salary, $80,000 annually. Immediate start available. Discretion and professionalism essential. Emma read it 3 times before the numbers registered. "Maya," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Look at this." Maya leaned closer, her eyes widening as she processed the salary figure. 80,000? "Emma, that's more than my dad makes, and he's been an accountant for 20 years. It has to be a mistake. Or a scam." But as Emma clicked through to Kane Industries' website, her heart began racing for entirely different reasons. This wasn't some questionable startup. Kane Industries was legitimate. Steel and glass towers across 3 continents. Holdings spanning from tech startups to luxury hotels. Annual revenue in the billions. At the center of it all was Alexander Kane. The website's leadership page featured a professional photograph that made Emma's breath catch. He looked like he'd stepped from the pages of a business magazine. Sharp jawline, steel gray eyes that seemed to penetrate the camera lens, dark hair styled with effortless perfection. But it wasn't just his appearance that commanded attention. Even in a static photograph, he radiated the kind of power that made decisions affecting thousands of lives. "Emma," Maya said slowly, reading the company information. "It says no experience required, but look at this guy. He's 32 and worth. Oh my God, his estimated net worth is $3.2 billion. Billion. With a B. Emma couldn't even properly conceptualize that amount of wealth. It existed so far beyond her experience that it felt fictional. Why would someone like that hire someone with no corporate experience? Maya continued. He could have anyone. Harvard MBAs. People with decades of experience in high-level positions. That should have been Emma's first warning. In a rational world, she would have closed the laptop and returned to applying for retail positions. But Emma wasn't living in a rational world. She was living in a world where her laptop was dead, her parents were drowning in medical debt, and she had $47 to her name. So she applied. Emma spent 4 hours crafting what she believed was the perfect cover letter. She wrote about her work ethic, her determination, her ability to learn quickly under pressure. She carefully avoided mentioning that she'd never set foot in a corporate office, that her professional wardrobe consisted of 3 blouses and a Target blazer, or that the fanciest restaurant she'd ever visited was Olive Garden. When she finally clicked submit, her hands trembled with a mixture of hope and terror. "What's the worst that could happen?" she asked Maya. Maya's expression suggested they both knew exactly what the worst could be. But sometimes, when desperation reaches a certain threshold, you take the leap anyway. 2 days of silence followed. 2 days of Emma obsessively checking her email, jumping at every phone notification, trying to convince herself she hadn't just embarrassed herself on a corporate level. She was in the middle of her shift at Grind Coffee, dealing with a particularly demanding customer who wanted her latte remade for the 3rd time because it wasn't hot enough, despite having sat on her phone for 10 minutes. Before tasting it, when Emma's phone rang, the number was unfamiliar, but something about it suggested importance. "Official business. Grind Coffee, this is Emma," she answered, balancing the phone between her ear and shoulder while operating the milk steamer. "Emma Sullivan?" The voice was crisp, professional, with a hint of British accent that spoke of expensive education and refined upbringing. "Yes? This is Margaret Chen, Executive Assistant to Mr. Alexander Kane. Mr. Kane would like to schedule an interview with you for the personal assistant position." The milk steamer wand slipped from Emma's grip, sending a spray of hot steam across the counter. Several customers glanced over as she fumbled to shut it off, her heart hammering against her ribs. Yes, absolutely. When would be convenient?" "Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Kane Tower, 45th floor. Do not be late, Miss Sullivan. Mr. Kane values punctuality above all other professional qualities." "Of course. I'll be there on time. Should I bring anything specific or—" The line went dead. Emma stood frozen, phone still pressed to her ear, trying to process what had just occurred. Around her, the coffee shop maintained its usual chaos. Customers chatting, machines hissing, her co-worker Jake asking if everything was okay. Alexander Kane wanted to see her. Tomorrow. The remainder of her shift passed in a blur of mistakes. Wrong orders, spilled drinks, incorrect change. Her manager pulled her aside twice, concerned about her obvious distraction, but Emma couldn't focus on anything except tomorrow at 3 p.m. That evening, Maya found Emma standing before their shared closet, holding up different outfits with the desperation of someone preparing for the most important battle of their life. "The black pants with the white blouse?" Emma asked, displaying an outfit that had served adequately for previous retail job interviews. Maya examined the ensemble and shook her head decisively. "Emma, you're interviewing to be personal assistant to a billionaire. That outfit is perfect for managing a clothing store. But this is completely different territory." Maya was right, and they both knew it. Everything Emma owned came from discount stores and clearance racks. Her professional wardrobe consisted of 3 blouses, 2 pairs of dress pants, and 1 blazer that had accompanied her to every significant event since high school graduation. "What am I doing, Maya?" Emma sank onto her bed, suddenly overwhelmed by the impossibility of her situation. "I don't belong in his world. I don't know how to behave around people like that. I've never even been inside a building with 45 floors." Maya sat beside her, expression serious. "Emma, you're one of the smartest, most determined people I've ever known. You've worked your way through college while maintaining a near-perfect GPA and working 20 hours a week. You've never given up, even when things got impossibly difficult. But Maya, no buts. You know what wealthy people have that you don't? Money. That's literally it. They're not smarter. They're not inherently better. They just started with more advantages. Don't let money intimidate you into thinking you're less capable." Easy for Maya to say. She'd grown up around comfortable wealth. But as Emma studied her reflection in their small bedroom mirror, she made a decision. Tomorrow, she would walk into Alexander Kane's office and convince him that Emma Sullivan, broke college student from a working-class family, was exactly what he needed, even if she had no idea what she was walking into. Emma left campus 3 hours before her appointment the next day. Not because Kane Tower was particularly distant from the university, but because she needed time to mentally prepare for entering a world she'd only seen in movies. The subway ride downtown felt like traveling to another planet. Emma clutched her thrift store purse, trying not to wrinkle her carefully chosen outfit. Maya had insisted she borrow her good heels. Black, professional, only slightly too large. Emma had stuffed tissue paper in the toes and hoped for the best. Kane Tower dominated the city center like a monument to wealth and power. The building rose from the urban landscape with architectural confidence that only unlimited resources could provide, gleaming steel and glass reaching toward the sky with Prasenzaidado, authoritative grace. The lobby directory read like a registry of powerful companies, but Kane Industries occupied the top 15 floors. Of course they did. The lobby itself was designed to intimidate. Marble floors reflected light from crystal chandeliers. Security guards wore suits that probably cost more than Emma's monthly expenses, and the reception desk resembled something from a luxury hotel. Everyone who moved through that space belonged there. Tailored clothing, confident strides, the casual elegance that came from never questioning whether you could afford something. Then there was Emma. She approached the reception desk, her borrowed heels clicking against marble in a rhythm that seemed inappropriately loud in the hushed atmosphere. "I'm here to see Mr. Kane," she told the receptionist, a woman whose makeup had been applied with professional precision and whose jewelry likely cost more than Emma's car. The receptionist assessed Emma with the thoroughness of someone evaluating potential value. "Name? Emma Sullivan. I have a 3 p.m. appointment." After what felt like an eternity of typing, the receptionist handed over a visitor's badge. 45th floor. Miss Chen will meet you at the elevator." The elevator ride felt endless. Emma watched the numbers climb, 10, 15, 20, 25, and with each floor, she felt smaller and increasingly out of place. What was she doing here? What made her think she could work for someone like Alexander Kane? But it was too late for second thoughts. The doors opened on the 45th floor, revealing a reception area that made the impressive lobby look modest. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic city views, and the furniture appeared to belong in an exclusive art gallery. Margaret Chen was waiting, exactly as Emma had imagined from her voice, impeccably dressed, perfectly composed, radiating the efficiency that came from years managing the impossible. She evaluated Emma with professional interest. Not unkindly, but with the thoroughness of someone assessing a potential asset. Miss Sullivan. Precisely on time. Mr. Kane appreciates punctuality. Of course. Before we proceed, allow me to offer some guidance. Margaret's voice dropped to a confidential level. Mr. Kane doesn't engage in small talk. He doesn't care about your college major, your hobbies, or your 5-year plans. He cares about results, efficiency, and absolute discretion. Answer his questions directly. Don't waste his time. And whatever you do, don't allow him to intimidate you. Don't let him intimidate me? He will attempt it. Nothing personal. It's simply how he operates. He needs to understand whether you can handle pressure, because working for Alexander Kane means living under constant pressure. Margaret led Emma down a hallway lined with expensive artwork and closed office doors, each presumably housing someone whose decisions affected millions of dollars. One additional point, Margaret said as they approached imposing double doors at the corridor's end. His previous 3 assistants resigned within a month. The compensation is generous because the demands are extraordinary. Are you certain you're prepared for that level of challenge? Emma thought about her dead laptop, her parents' medical bills, her $47 bank balance. I'm prepared for anything. Margaret Chen smiled, the first genuine expression Emma had witnessed from her. Excellent. You'll need that attitude. She knocked twice on the double doors, then opened them without waiting for permission. Mr. Kane? Emma Sullivan is here for her interview. Alexander Kane sat behind a desk that could have housed Emma's entire apartment in an office designed to overwhelm and impress. But none of the luxury registered immediately, because Emma was too focused on reconciling the man before her with his professional photograph. He was more intimidating in person, significantly more. The website photo had captured his features accurately: the sharp jawline, steel gray eyes, dark hair, styled with seemingly effortless perfection. But it hadn't conveyed his sheer presence, the way he seemed to command space without effort. Even seated, he projected coiled energy, like a predator momentarily at rest. His suit was custom-tailored charcoal that probably cost more than Emma would earn in her first month working for him. Crisp white shirt, subtle silver tie that complemented those penetrating eyes, and a watch that belonged in a luxury catalog, but it was his eyes that held Emma captive. They were calculating, assessing, cataloging every detail of her appearance with scientific thoroughness. She felt like a specimen under examination, being evaluated for worthiness. Miss Sullivan. His voice was deeper than she'd expected, with an accent she couldn't identify. Sit. Not an invitation, a command. Emma perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than everything she owned combined, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. For a long moment, Alexander Kane said nothing. He simply studied her with those unsettling gray eyes. Tell me, he said finally, why you believe you're qualified to work for me, when Harvard MBAs have failed in this position. The question was designed to destabilize her, and it nearly succeeded. Nearly. Because they were probably more concerned with impressing you than actually helping you. Emma heard herself respond. I'm not here to climb some corporate ladder or network my way into a better position. I'm here because I need this job, which means I'll work harder than anyone else you've encountered. One eyebrow rose slightly, the first change in his expression since she'd entered. Interesting theory. What makes you think you can handle the pressure of working for me? My schedule is demanding. 18-hour days are routine. International travel with zero notice. Dealing with individuals who want to destroy me personally and professionally. He leaned back, gaze never wavering. Think you can manage that with your limited experience? The way he emphasized limited experience stung, but Emma lifted her chin anyway. Mr. Blanchard Kane, I've been working since I was 16 while maintaining a 3.8 GPA in college. I'm accustomed to 18-hour days. The difference is that instead of earning $80,000 for them, I've been doing them for minimum wage while surviving on ramen noodles and determination. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Interest? You researched my company thoroughly before applying. It wasn't a question, but Emma answered anyway. Of course I did. What did you discover? That Kane Industries began as a small construction company your grandfather built from nothing. That you assumed control at 25 following your father's death, and in 7 years you've transformed it into a multi-billion-dollar empire. That you maintain holdings in 12 countries and employ over 50,000 people. Anything else? Emma hesitated. This was dangerous territory, but something in his expression suggested he wanted honesty, not diplomacy. That business publications call you ruthless, that you have a reputation for being impossible to work for, that your personal life remains mysterious because you never grant interviews about anything unrelated to business. For the first time since Emma had entered his office, Alexander Kane smiled. It wasn't dramatic, barely a curve of his lips, but it transformed his entire appearance. Suddenly he seemed less like an untouchable billionaire and more human. And yet you applied anyway. Like I said, Mr. Kane, I need this job. Emma Sullivan. He spoke her name as if testing how it sounded. Business major at the State University. Scholarship student. Part-time employment at. He glanced at what appeared to be her application. Grind coffee. Parents in Ohio. Father experienced a heart attack last year. Mother works at a nursing facility. Emma's blood turned cold. How could he possibly know about her father's heart attack? You've been investigating me. I investigate everyone who applies to work closely with me. Your academic records are impressive. Your employment history demonstrates reliability. Your financial situation indicates motivation. He leaned forward slightly. But what I find most intriguing, Miss Sullivan, is that despite your obvious intelligence and work ethic, you've never pursued opportunities beyond minimum wage positions. Why is that? The question caught her off guard. I applied for positions I thought I could actually obtain. Ah, limited ambition then. No. The word emerged sharper than intended. Realistic expectations. People like me don't usually receive opportunities like this. People like you? People without connections, without money, without the right background or breeding. He remained quiet for a long moment, studying her with those penetrating gray eyes. Miss Sullivan, let me be explicit about what this position entails. You would be my personal assistant, which means you would know everything about my life, my schedule, my business dealings, my personal appointments, my family obligations. You would have access to information that could destroy me or make you extremely wealthy if sold to interested parties. I would never. You would travel with me frequently, often on minimal notice. You would work extended hours, manage difficult people, and maintain absolute discretion about everything you observe and hear. You would, essentially, become an extension of myself. His voice was hypnotic, measured. The salary is generous because the demands are extraordinary. Are you prepared for that level of intimacy with your employer's life? The way he pronounced intimacy made something flutter in Emma's stomach. I can handle whatever the position requires, Mr. Kane. We shall see. He stood abruptly, and Emma realized just how imposing his height was. Even across the expansive desk, his presence was overwhelming. You begin Monday. Miss Chen will provide the details, salary, benefits, confidentiality agreements. Don't disappoint me, Miss Sullivan. Wait, was that it? Had she actually secured the position? Mr. Kane, are you offering me the job? He was already turning toward the window, dismissing her. I don't make offers. I don't intend to honor. Emma stood on unsteady legs, hardly believing what had transpired. As she reached the door, his voice stopped her. Oh, and Miss Sullivan? She turned back. Replace the thrift store wardrobe. You represent me now, and I maintain certain standards. Emma's cheeks burned, but she lifted her chin with whatever dignity remained. Of course, Mr. Kane. As Emma walked out of Kane Tower, her mind reeled with disbelief and excitement. She had the job. Somehow, impossibly, she had convinced Alexander Kane to hire her. $80,000 annually. Benefits. A chance to completely transform her life. But his parting comment about her wardrobe stung. He was right, of course. Her thrift store blazer and borrowed heels weren't exactly appropriate for a billionaire's standards. But the casual way he dismissed her appearance, like it was simply another problem to be solved, reminded her exactly how different their worlds were. Emma called Maya from the subway, still processing her surreal afternoon. "I got it," she said the moment Maya answered. "Maya, I got the job." "Oh my God. Emma, tell me everything." So she did. The intimidating office, the penetrating questions, the way Alexander Kane seemed to see directly through her facades, his investigation into her background, his knowledge of her family's financial struggles, his commanding presence that made her feel simultaneously insignificant and strangely noticed. "He sounds intense," Maya observed when Emma finished. "That's one way to describe it." "But Emma, $80,000. Do you understand what this means? You can help your parents, finish school without financial stress, actually have a real life." Maya was absolutely right. This job represented everything Emma had dreamed of, and more. So why did she feel like she'd just committed to something far more complicated than a simple employment arrangement? That weekend, Emma celebrated with Maya at their favorite pizza place. The first time in months she'd ordered without checking prices. They discussed all the things Emma would finally be able to afford, the ways her life was about to change. But Emma couldn't shake the memory of Alexander Kane's steel gray eyes, or the way he'd spoken her name like he was claiming ownership of it. Sunday night, Emma lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep despite her exhaustion. Tomorrow, she would enter Alexander Kane's world as his personal assistant. She would have access to his life, his secrets, his daily routine. She would become, as he described it, an extension of himself. What Emma didn't know was that Alexander Kane had chosen her for reasons that had nothing to do with her qualifications or work ethic. What she didn't know was that this job would blur every line between professional and personal. And what she definitely didn't know was that her new boss had been watching her for much longer than the 2 days between her application and interview. As Emma drifted towards sleep that Sunday night, planning her first day as a billionaire's assistant, she had no idea what awaited her. Alexander Kane hadn't hired her randomly. He hadn't selected her from a pool of applicants based on her cover letter or interview performance. He'd been watching Emma Sullivan for weeks. Every morning when she walked to campus, every shift at the coffee shop, every late night at the library, he'd known exactly where she was and what she was doing. Her financial desperation, her family's struggles, her academic achievements, none of it was news to him. The question wasn't whether Emma was qualified for the job. The question was, what did Alexander Kane really want from Emma Sullivan? And why had he gone to such elaborate lengths to ensure she would accept his offer? Tomorrow morning, Emma would walk into Kane Tower as his new personal assistant, believing she'd won the lottery. But some jobs come with prices you don't discover until it's too late to walk away. What was Alexander Kane's true agenda? Why had he chosen Emma specifically? And what happens when you become intimately involved in the life of a man accustomed to controlling everything and everyone around him? Find out in episode 2 of The CEO's Obsession, the contract that changed everything. The shocking proposal Alexander has waiting for Emma will leave you breathless. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because Emma is about to discover that working for Alexander Kane means so much more than she ever imagined. Trust me, you won't want to miss what he has planned for her next.